Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm Sarah Stewart. I'm the minister here. It's wonderful to have all of you with us this morning. I'm leading worship this morning with our Director of Music, Allegra Martin, our Assistant Director of Music, James Haupt, our Assistant Director of Faith Development, Abigail Hannaford-Ricardi, and our broadcast tech, Avilo Buxton. Caroline and Jacob Melnick will help tell our story. Here at First Unitarian Church, we strive in loving fellowship to honor the sacred, connect with each other, and serve justice. We are a welcoming congregation. Whatever your age, race, class, or nationality, you are welcome here. Single people and families of all kinds are welcome here. LGBTQ folks are welcome here. Those of all physical and mental abilities are welcome here. The doors of this church are open to all, and we are delighted you are with us today. I welcome those of you who are joining us online. You can like this video to help others find it and subscribe to our channel to find more content. We have children's stories, musical performances, and past services. To learn more about all we do together as a congregation, you can go to firstunitarian.com and click subscribe to our newsletter at the bottom of any page. And if you're in the Worcester area, I invite you to join us for worship and fellowship every Sunday morning at 10:30. Everyone is welcome to come to a social hour in the church parlor after the service. If you can get there through either of these doors at the front of the sanctuary, and this door on my left is the accessible entrance. If you are a newcomer, please make your way over to the welcome table on this side of the parlor. There are volunteers who can answer your questions about the church. We have a welcome bag for newcomers, and you can also sign up for our newsletter and a name tag there. There are announcements in the insert of your order of service, and I have a few additional announcements. For the month of March, your worship team are highlighting music and words written and composed by women. And so if you look at our order of service, you'll notice that the composers and the authors are women. I want to highlight one especially today, who is Sarah Dan Jones, who wrote the song we'll sing for our common prayer, Meditation on Breathing. It's published in the Teal hymnal, and I lift her up because I worked with Sarah Dan. She was the director of music at the church I served in New Hampshire until 2013. So I'm fond of her, and I'm very pleased we're singing her song this morning. I am grateful to this congregation for granting me a sabbatical this spring. My last Sunday with you will be Easter Sunday, March 31st. And then for April, May, and June, you will have a part-time sabbatical minister, the Reverend Lisa Perry Wood. She's going to be wonderful. She has served congregations of this size in Massachusetts, and she's done short-term ministries before. I think she's going to bring a very warm and justice-focused preaching and pastoral presence to the congregation. And she will be here next Sunday on March 24th for our service and coffee hour, so you'll have a chance to meet her and say hello next Sunday. I will be back with you for the We Agora camp in the end of July and then in the office in August. And I want to call your attention to this page in the order of service, which just shows you everything we have going on around Easter this year. Next Sunday is Palm Sunday. Our children will distribute palms during the service, and our youth group is hosting a pancake brunch fundraiser during coffee hour. Thursday, March 28th at 6 p.m., there's a communion vespers service in the Bancroft room. All are welcome at our table. And on Easter Sunday, March 31st, there's a 6 a.m. sunrise service on Bancroft Tower Hill, and then our 10:30 worship service here in the sanctuary. So everybody is invited to all of those celebrations for Easter. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We enter into this time of worship allowing gratitude to fill our hearts. Gratitude for the sustenance we receive from the earth and from each other, which we need for our living but did not create. Gratitude for shelter, for clean air and water, for the love of family and friends, for safety, for warmth, for well-being, and especially for food. We honor the food which nurtures our bodies by lighting candles, saying a prayer together, naming our gratitude, feelings of blessing, thanking all the people whose work brings food to our table, with our phones away, with humility, with intentional breath. We honor the gift of tranquility that we may eat together in peace. We honor the gift of this moment of worship as we gather together in peace and hope for peace for all people. Amen.
Mira is lighting our chalice this morning.
In the spirit of love,
We light this chalice. Please rise in body or spirit to renew the covenant of our church with the words in your order of service and appearing on your screen. In the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of all.
Today is St. Patrick's Day. Last week, I went to a parade here in Worcester. We also had a 5K road race. After church, my family was going to go out for corned beef and cabbage dinner.
Did you know they don't eat corned beef in Ireland?
They don't?
No, that's only an American thing.
So how do they celebrate? I bet they go out drinking.
That's more of a thing with tourists. Actually, many of the pubs in Ireland are closed for St. Patrick's Day. It's a big day to go to church. They have special services in honor of St. Patrick. Museum also host talks and tours. In the major cities like Dublin, Cork, and Limerick, they have multi-day festivals with music, dancing, and fireworks.
That's cool. Do you think they always had fireworks?
Well, traditionally the holiday was celebrated by planting potatoes and tossing shamrocks over their shoulders for good luck.
Do you know why people would wear shamrocks? Because real rocks were too heavy.
Did you know that in England the royal family presents shamrocks to the officers of the Irish Guardsmen? The tradition started in 1901 by Queen Alexandra, wife of King Edward VIII, and is still done today.
Of course they still do it. It's not clover till it's over. I'm not surprised St. Patrick's Day is observed in England, but I wonder why so many Americans celebrate the holiday.
Well, over 30 million Americans report being Irish. That's 6 times the entire population of Ireland.
Wow. I wonder where else St. Patrick's Day is a big deal.
On the Caribbean island of Montserrat, they have a huge 10-day festival.
In the Caribbean?
Yeah. Back in 1649, the English general Oliver Cromwell banished people from Ireland to the island. Sadly, the Irish then enslaved native people to the island. Today, St. Patrick's Day both celebrates the Irish heritage and commemorates the struggle for freedom. The 10-day festival with an all-night party called Leprechaun's Revenge. They light a torch to remember the enslaved people who lost their lives attempting to rebel against their Irish slave owners.
Wow. You know a lot. Any other place St. Patrick's Day is a big deal that may surprise me?
Let me think. All across Japan, St. Patrick's Day parades are held, many of them drawing thousands of participants and spectators. And in the capital of Malaysia, the St. Patrick's Society, there's a huge annual St. Patrick's Day ball. It's a big deal for high society.
Sounds like they really have a ball. Any other unusual ways of observing the holiday that you know about?
In the center of the city of Brussels in Belgium is a famous statue of a young boy called Monique Pies. Every St. Patrick's Day, the statue is dressed up in a traditional Irish cable knit sweater. And in Munich, Germany, the Olympic Tower, City Hall, and soccer stadium all glow green in honor of St. Patrick's Day. Now, places all over the world are shining green lights on famous landmarks.
I'm glad someone gave them the green light to do it.
Your jokes are awful.
Just green and bear it. Did you know that in Chicago they use 40 pounds of green dye to color the Chicago River every St. Patrick's Day? At least we can all agree on the color green.
Actually, people used to wear blue for St. Patrick's Day, as in the Order of St. Patrick, which had the ribbon in the color of St. Patrick blue.
You're kidding me. Blue?
Yep. Old images of the saint always showed him in blue, and the Irish flag actually used to be blue. The use of green began during 1798 Irish Rebellion, when the clover became a symbol of nationalism and the wearing of green on lapels became regularly practiced. But that's a whole other story for another day.
So this morning in faith development, our children are going to be going downstairs to plan their next children's chapel. They do a whole chapel next week from start to finish. And the week after that is Palm Sunday, and as Sarah mentioned, our YU2 high school youth group is going to be hosting a fundraiser. It's pancakes, not really for breakfast since it's coffee hour time, but in any case, bring your appetite and generous spirit. They're raising money for their youth room, which they want to redo, and this will help pay for the supplies. And the week after that is Easter Sunday, and you may have noticed the Easter eggs out in the dining room. Please take your eggs home or do it here and fill them with any amount of money. Pennies, dimes, nickels, quarters, bills, 20s, hundreds, hey. The money will all be donated to a charity that the children are choosing this morning. And the eggs are all hidden by our youth groups, and then the younger children collect them all. So it's fun and it benefits others. And finally, what is my final one? It's a good question. Oh, Bicoda Youth Group is having a food drive for Cardi Cupboard next door, and you have until April 7th to bring in food. So there are posters up on the wall that they made that tell you exactly everything that they're looking for and all the details. And now our children can go downstairs. Thank you.
Allegra's leading our common prayer this morning, which is sung. Our common prayer this
morning is meditation on breathing, which we've done before. If you wish to look at the music, it's in the teal hymnal, number 9, basically, 1009. But you don't have to look at it. Because we have it on the screen as well. So it has several parts, and just to remind you, the bottom bass part goes, breathe in, breathe out, and we're going to start with that part, and then after we've done that for a couple times, we're going to start in on the melody, and the melody goes, when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. And after we've done that for a while, anybody who's feeling very bold and expressive can do the top descant part as I look meaningfully over at the choir. So let's start with the bass part where we'll all go, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, join me on the melody if you want. I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe I breathe out, and I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
Please continue your own thoughts and prayers in silence. In this time of prayer and meditation, we share the joys and sorrows of our church with one another. We light a candle of healing for Michael Sokal, who is recovering from recent health challenges. We know there are joys and sorrows which go unspoken among us, and so we reach out to one another in compassion as we say together the prayer of Jesus. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Our ministries at First Unitarian Church thrive because of your support. In the past few weeks, the fundraising committee has launched an online fundraiser to invite our larger Unitarian Universalist and even non-UU community to support the project in the sanctuary to alter our pews for more wheelchair access. You see, we've done it on this side, and we plan to do it on this side as well, so you can share and support this campaign online. Children in our neighboring faiths class visited Temple Emmanuel Sinai on Friday night for their Shabbat service. And our women's group, the UU Sisterhood, held its third Friday potluck. All women of the church are invited to join them every month. The ushers will receive this morning's offering, or you may scan the QR code in the order of service. If you're online, you can text the number on your screen or go to firstunitarian.com and click Give Online at the top of any page. Everything we do as a church is thanks to your support. I invite your generous contributions for the good work of First Unitarian Church. Our first reading this morning is excerpts from sacred texts of world religions on eating and fasting. From the prophet Isaiah. Is not this the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them and not to hide yourself from your own kin? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. From the Gospel of Mark. In those days when there was again a great crowd without anything to eat, Jesus called his disciples and said to them, I have compassion for the crowd because they have been with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. If I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way, and some of them have come from a great distance. His disciples replied, How can one feed these people with bread here in the desert? He asked them, How many loaves do you have? They said, 7. Then he ordered the crowd to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves, and after giving thanks, he broke them and gave them to his disciples to distribute, and they distributed them to the crowd. They had also a few small fish, and after blessing them, he ordered that these too should be distributed. They ate and were filled, and they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. From the Quran. The month of Ramadan is that in which was revealed the Quran, a guidance for the people and clear proofs of guidance and criterion. So whoever sights the new moon of the month, let him fast it. And whoever is ill or on a journey, then an equal number of other days. Allah intends for you ease and does not intend for you hardship, and wants you to complete the period and to glorify Allah for that to which he has guided you. And perhaps you will be grateful. And finally, a modern Ojibwe prayer before eating. Great Spirit, we all thank you. We are happy here on earth. We thank you all, in the north, in the east, in the south, in the west. We thank them, our grandfathers, our grandmothers, and our children. We thank you, Creator, who gave us this food. May we thank all who have come here today. May it be so. Here ends the reading. Our second reading is from the essay An Offering in Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Kimmerer is a botanist and a citizen of the Potawatomi Nation. She remembers summers spent camping with her family and how her father gave thanks to the gods every morning after he boiled the coffee. The first offering of coffee went into the ground, while her father said, "Here's to the gods of Tahawas." Then, and only then, did he pour cups of coffee for himself and for his wife. Kimmerer writes, "Years later, I asked my father, 'Where did the ceremony come from? Did you learn it from your father and he from his? Did it stretch all the way back to the time of the canoes?' He thought for a long time. 'No, I don't think so. It's just what we did. It seemed right. That was all.' Some weeks went by, though, and when we spoke again, he said, 'I've been thinking about the coffee and how we started giving it to the ground. You know, it was boiled coffee. There's no filter, and if it boils too hard, the grounds foam up and get stuck in the spout. So the first cup you pour would get that plug of grounds and be spoiled. I think we first did it to clear the spout.' It was as if he told me that the water didn't change to wine. The whole web of gratitude, the whole story of remembrance was nothing more than the dumping of grounds. But you know," he said, "there weren't always grounds to clear. It started out that way, but it became something else. A thought. It was a kind of respect, a kind of thanks. On a beautiful summer morning, I suppose you could call it joy. That, I think, is the power of ceremony. It marries the mundane to the sacred. The water turns to wine, the coffee to a prayer. The material and the spiritual mingle like grounds mingled with humus, transformed like steam rising from a mug into the morning mist." Thinking about the power of ceremony, I realized that we begin our worship service with a ceremony that you may be completely familiar with and yet not understand where it comes from, and that is the lighting of our chalice. Every Sunday morning for our worship service, towards the beginning of the service, we bring up a child. Usually Abby brings forward a child, and we light the chalice, and we say, "In the spirit of love, we light this chalice." And I think that this church has perhaps been doing this since the 1990s. And Unitarian churches in general have been using the flaming chalice as a symbol since the 1930s. In the 1930s, an American couple, Martha and Waitzel Sharp, were working with the Unitarian Service Committee to get Jewish refugees out of Eastern Europe ahead of the war. And they needed a symbol for their work. They needed something that they could use to identify who they were and what they were doing. And an Austrian artist created the symbol of the flaming chalice, the light of truth in the cup of salvation that is offered to all people. It was adopted by the American Unitarian Association as a symbol, and then showing up on communications, and it was slowly adopted by churches as an actual practice. Let's have an actual cup with a candle in it, and let's light that cup and that candle at the beginning of our services. I don't know which church did it first, but now it is nearly universally practiced in Unitarian Universalist churches. In our congregations are not known for all doing things the same way, but this one thing is done in almost every Unitarian Universalist congregation, certainly every one that I have been to. It is perhaps our only distinctive ritual. And I think that fact that here it is on a Sunday and at this time, this worship hour time, Unitarian Universalist churches all over the country and all over the world are lighting a chalice to begin their services. It gives it some power. The power of over 1,000 churches lighting the chalice together. And the power of doing that for over 60 years together The power of imagining that hundreds of thousands of people have looked on that light shining at the front of their sanctuaries and known that that means this is my spiritual home, this is where I belong. Whether those are old New England meeting houses or open-air sanctuaries in California or storefront churches in the Philippines. The actual thing that we're doing, lighting a candle, saying some words, that's fairly mundane. The power comes from doing it together, from doing it over and over again, from seeing it as a symbol of our free faith, from acting together with intention to say this is a time and a place set aside for worship and for exploring our deepest values. We make the act sacred through our devotion. What we devote ourselves to through ritual and ceremony makes clear our deepest values. The thing we repeat together, we remember and we treasure. There is probably one other ceremony that all Unitarian Universalist churches share together, and I think that's coffee hour. In fact, our neighboring faiths class has been visiting some different churches. My younger son is in that class, and he reports back with disappointment if he visits a religious community that doesn't have food after the worship service. Food is a core sacred thing that we all share together and that religions universally have come up with rituals to make sacred. We all treasure food. At my house, we say a grace before dinner every night, and usually the grace we say is to go around and say what we're thankful for. My teen boys are usually sincerely and deeply thankful for food. Just that, the food they're about to eat. Food connects us to the earth and to the lives of plants and animals. It connects us to our families and our cultures. It shows us the tension between the abundance of food that's available in the world and the inequalities of society that mean that some of us have plenty and some of us don't have enough. And that act of giving thanks before we eat just takes us out of our own heads for just a minute, stops making me the center of my own life, and reminds me, I need this to live. I'm dependent upon the earth and upon the work of other people that has made this meal possible. And I am so grateful to be able to sit down at this table with these people I love and eat. Right now in Islam, it's the holy month of Ramadan, a lunar month, said to be the month when the Quran was revealed to Muhammad over the course of several years. And it's marked by fasting during daylight hours, from the moment in the dawn when you can first distinguish a white thread in the black night, until the time in the night when you can no longer see that thread. Muslims are called on to fast during those days for the entire month. But then at night, light meals are shared with family and friends, and there are special foods that are only eaten during Ramadan as people travel to each other's homes for those meals. At the end of Ramadan, there's a celebration, Eid al-Fitr, which is a feast to end the fast and return to regular life. It began likely as a social justice effort, a way of redistributing food and encouraging charity. Almsgiving is a pillar of Islam, and almsgiving during Ramadan, giving to charity during Ramadan, is especially holy. It was possibly influenced by the strict Lenten fasting of Syrian churches in the 7th century, or by practices of fasting that already existed in Mecca before the advent of Islam. And even if we ourselves are not Muslim, we can imagine the power of the ritual fast of Ramadan, of taking on that hardship in community, of really making clear the connection between food and justice. That because perhaps I and my family are not spending as much money on food, we have that money to give to the poor and to people who need it. And the shared gratitude and celebration, both of the evening meals during Ramadan, but also of the big celebration of Eid al-Fitr at the end. Taking that month to really point out how sacred it is that we get to eat, that we have enough food, and that we eat together in community. In Christianity, the sacred meal is the Eucharist, bread and wine shared at a communion table. We'll do this during our Maundy Thursday service. We serve communion twice a year here, not usually during the Sunday service, but usually during evening services. All are welcome at our table. In some churches, you have to have been baptized or you have to have be a member of the church, but not here. Everybody is welcome at our communion table. And in doing this, we really lift up that part of our covenant that says we gather in the spirit of Jesus, and we remember his spirit and his life and his ministry. The story says that Jesus gathered for the sacred Jewish meal of the Seder during Passover with his friends. And that at that meal, Jesus, who knew that his ministry had upset the power structure of the Romans, he knew that he was not going to live for very much longer, and he said to his friends, "Whenever you break bread together, do it in remembrance of me. I will be there with you. And whenever you share this wine, do it in remembrance of me. I will be there with you." The words that he said to institute this ritual are the oldest words of Jesus that we have record of, written down about 25 years after his death. And I am struck every year as I'm putting together the communion service and leading the service here, I'm struck by the simplicity of what Jesus commanded his community to do, what he asked his community to do. He didn't say, you have to do a complicated, expensive ritual. He didn't say you have to suffer because I'm going to suffer. He's just said to them, when you are eating bread and drinking wine, this most basic activity, when you gather together in community to share a meal, remember me. My spirit will be with you. I'm going to leave you. I'm going to die. But my spirit will not leave you. It will be with you at every meal and every time you gather. Now, we can't see into the distant past to know exactly how these religious rituals started. And of course, there's a lot of controversy because the religions themselves insist on a sacred origin for these rituals. But historians look back and say, well, it probably began as a more practical matter and became a religious ritual over time. Passover itself may have begun as a protection ritual. As nomadic shepherds began to move each year with their flocks, they may have had a ritual of slaughtering one of the lambs, putting the blood over the door, and then eating the lamb together as a ritual meal. Like I said, Ramadan may have had its origin in Syrian fasts or in pre-Islamic fasts that were part of Meccan culture. Even though Jesus' words at the Eucharist are the oldest thing we have, oldest quote we have from him, so to speak, he himself didn't write down anything, and even that was written 25 years or so after his death. But I suspect that with each of these rituals, if we could peer all the way back into the mists of time, that they all began when a small group of people began to acknowledge the sanctity and power of what they were doing, of saying this moment is sacred to us, this time of sharing food together. We are going to do something to acknowledge this sacred moment. They did it once, and then they did it again, and they did it again as they shared it with their larger community. More and more people practicing something makes it a ritual. We dedicate ourselves to the things we want to hold holy. All of these world religions have recognized that eating food together can be a holy act that rededicates us to our values. In the reading we heard this morning, Robin Wall Kimmerer was sure that her father's morning offering of coffee was an old Indian ritual. She remembers that moment when they camped every summer of her father pouring out the coffee, and she imagined that this was, this is the old Indian spirit still with us alive today. And then you can really hear her adult disappointment to discover that it just began as her father trying to get the grounds out of the coffee spout so that he and his wife could enjoy their morning cup of coffee. But then he went on to say he didn't always have to do it. There weren't always grounds stuck in the coffee spout. The act itself of saying thanks became as important as the simple gift of drinking coffee together in the morning. We all love a ritual that's old and mysterious, but in a way, I love this story more because it reminds us that any act can become powerful if we stop and think about what it means and how we do it. Kimmerer's father recognized the gift of hot coffee, a gift not to be taken lightly. He recognized the opportunity to give thanks, and then he committed to giving thanks every day in this way, whether it was necessary or not. This is what it takes to build a ritual practice, to share it with our community and share it through generations, and through that ritual to connect to the source of our spirit. We recognize that we are not the center of the universe, that we are dependent on powers greater than ourselves, on the power of the earth, on the power of human community that allows us to eat food and live in peace. We give thanks for that dependence. Give thanks for the gifts that make our lives possible. We share the practice with others, and over time, we share it across generations. This is how rituals are born. This is what rituals help us remember and dedicate ourselves to. I noticed in thinking about this sermon and thinking about the power of ritual that so much ritual is focused on food. And when we eat food and when we connect it to that practice of Thanksgiving, of giving thanks for what we eat, we are also called to our values of justice. Because when we recognize that we can give thanks for food we have that's enough for us, we remember those people who don't have enough to eat. I think it's a powerful connection between almsgiving and fasting in Ramadan, that choosing not to eat is connected to giving to others. The need for food is universal, and these rituals connect us to our community and our gratitude, but also to all people. So that when we sit down at our meals and we say our thanks for what we have, we can also think of those people in our own community, unhoused people here in Worcester who don't know where their next meal will come from, or refugees trying to feed their families in hotel rooms, or those suffering in war, especially right now, those suffering in the war in Ukraine and civilians in Gaza going hungry as fighting ravages their homes. Giving thanks for food is a kind of joy. The real power of the ritual connects us to that joy and connects us to the good that we can do in the world. The power of the ritual is not the fast or the food, not even the fellowship gathered in the sanctuary or around the kitchen table. The real power is the power of human community, acting together for more justice and love for all. Our rituals are reminders that we are more powerful together and over time than we are alone and in the moment. They remind us of our deepest values, that everyone deserves safety and sufficiency, and that only by acting together can we see the day when they will have it. May we work toward the day when everyone will sit down to tables of plenty in places of peace. I love you all. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 110 in your gray hymnals, Come Children of Tomorrow. Please rise and guide your service. Go forth into the world in peace, be of good courage. Hold fast that which is good, render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the afflicted, honor everyone. Love and serve the holy, rejoicing in the power of the Spirit forever. Amen. Please be seated.